Today's prophecy update, as we do every Sunday, put aside a portion of the service to look at what the Bible says about last days events. I want to present 8 of these recent, quote-unquote, acts of God and how that they coincided with the timing of the United States placing pressure on Israel to give up her land. Now, why would God bring cataclysmic weather events, whether it's global warming or global warning or both, whenever we remove our support of Israel and place that support with the Palestinians? Because God declared, Genesis 12 records it, that if you bless my people Israel, I'll bless you. If you curse them, I will bring a curse on you. Am I suggesting that these cataclysmic weather events are God's hand of judgment on the United States of America? Well, you be the judge. The first one I'd like to look at, October 30th, 1991, the perfect storm. On October 30th, 1991, President George Bush Sr. opens the Madrid conference with an initiative for a Middle East peace plan involving Israel's land. On the same day, an extremely rare storm forms off the east coast of Nova Scotia. It was eventually tagged the perfect storm. And a book and a movie, you might remember the movie starring George Clooney, were made about this storm, October 30th, 1991. Record-setting 100-foot waves from at sea came and pounded the New England coast, even causing heavy damage to President Bush's home in Kennebunkport, Maine. Coincidence? I don't know. I don't think so. You be the judge. The second one, August 23rd, 1992. Remember Hurricane Andrew? The Madrid conference moves to Washington, D.C., and the peace talks resume, lasting 4 days. On that same day, Hurricane Andrew, the worst natural disaster ever to hit America, produces an estimated $30 billion, with a B, dollars in damage and leaves 180,000 people homeless in the state of Florida. January 16th, 1994. Remember the Northridge earthquakes in California? Well, this is when President Clinton meets with Syria's President Hafez al-Assad in Geneva. They talk about a peace agreement with Israel that includes giving up the Golan Heights. Less than 24 hours later, a powerful 6.9 earthquake rocks Southern California. This quake, centered in Northridge, is the second most destructive natural disaster to hit the United States, behind Hurricane Andrew back in 1992. March 1st to April 1997. The combination of PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat touring America and Clinton rebuking Israel for not giving away her land for peace coincide with some of the worst tornadoes and flooding in U.S. history. On the very day that Arafat lands in America, powerful tornadoes devastate huge sections of the nation, ripping across Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Arafat's American tour also coincides with the storms in the Dakotas, which result in the worst flooding of this century, in addition to weeks of major storms throughout the Midwest. Here's what's interesting. Arafat finishes his tour and leaves the United States, and the storms stop. Coincidence? I don't think so. September 27th and 28th, 1998. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright works on the final details of an agreement in which Israel will give up 13% of Yesha. The same day, Hurricane Georges slams into the Gulf Coast with 110 mile per hour winds and gusts up to 175. The hurricane hits the coast and stalls. On September 28th, Clinton meets with Arafat and Netanyahu at the White House to finalize the land deal. Later, Arafat addresses the United Nations about declaring an independent Palestinian state by May 1999, while Hurricane Georges pounds the Gulf Coast, causing $1 billion in damage. At the exact time Arafat departs the U.S., the storm begins to dissipate. October 15th through the 22nd, 1998. Yasser Arafat and Benjamin Netanyahu meet at the Wye River Plantation in Maryland to continue the talks, which ended on September 28th. The talks are scheduled to last 5 days with the focus on Israel giving up 13% of Yesha. The talks are extended and conclude on October 23rd. On October 17, awesome rains and tornadoes hit southern Texas. The San Antonio area is deluged with 20 inches of rain in one day. The rains and floods in Texas continue until October 22nd and then subside. The floods ravage 20% of Texas and leave over $1 billion in damage. On October 21, Clinton declares the section of Texas a major disaster area. May 3rd, 1999. This is the same day in Israel that Yasser Arafat is scheduled to declare a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as the capital. The declaration is postponed to December 1999 at the request of President Clinton, whose letter to Arafat encourages him for his aspirations for his own land. He also writes that the Palestinians have a right to determine their own future on their own land and that they deserve to live free today, tomorrow, and forever. Forgive me, but there's no such thing as a Palestinian people. There's no such thing as a Palestinian language, and that is not their land. And that comes from a so-called quote-unquote Palestinian, of which my mom considered herself to be. It's no wonder that God says, this is my land. I just had to introduce this and interject this because I don't know about you, but this kind of gets your blood pressure going just a little bit. That same day, starting at 4:47 p.m., the most powerful tornado storm system ever to hit the United States sweeps across Oklahoma and Kansas. The winds are clocked at, you ready for this? 316 miles per hour, the fastest wind speed ever recorded in history. Who can forget Hurricane Katrina? August 29th, 2005. Exactly 1 week after Israel's Prime Minister Ariel Sharon completed the forcible eviction of Jewish settlers from the Gaza Strip, Hurricane Katrina struck the states of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama with a destructive and catastrophic force. 80% of the entire city of New Orleans was left underwater. Many weather experts called this the worst hurricane and natural disaster that has ever hit this country. You think? President Bush supported Sharon's evacuation from Gaza. In April 2005, Bush and Sharon met in Crawford, Texas, where Bush praised Sharon for his, quote, strong visionary leadership in initiating the Gaza withdrawal, known as the disengagement plan. I strongly support his courageous initiative to disengage from Gaza and part of the West Bank, he said, referring to the withdrawal of more than 8,000 Jewish settlers. You know, as I look at this presidential election year, I'm left with a haunting sort of feeling that whoever the next president is, they will probably not support Israel. But it's at that point that I think the United States of America will fade into the backdrop of obscurity and anonymity on the world scene geopolitically.